Good morning. How's everyone out there doing today? I am with the marvelous Mel Kelly, located in Munich, Germany, originally from Ireland, author of these two amazing books. And his first book, I gotta dance around with him here. Born in Ireland, made in Germany. And then his second book, which inspired this show, Dating Disasters. Welcome, Mel.
Thank you, Amy. I am a pleasure and a privilege to be here with the amazing Amy Hamilton, who is the amazing author of two amazing books. So we have here is the project manager and the consummate communicator. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys this week and to talk about another round of disastrous dating tips. Welcome to the show.
So, Mal, this may not be your forte because the word subtle isn't it. Okay. And since I've known you, this does not often apply to you, the marvelous Mel Kelly. But often my girlfriends and I will be talking and they're like, I don't know if this guy really likes me or not. So, what is your advice? What are these subtle signs, that men give that they actually do like a woman? So, you're out there, you've been dating, maybe you're past date 3, you're on date 4 or 5. You're trying to figure out, like, is this going to go somewhere? Does this guy actually like you? Or are you just like kind of a fill in for until he finds somebody better? So, what are these subtle signs?
You see, the thing is, women are looking for subtle signs, and we're dealing here with men. I mean, we're not that subtle. It's we like, we don't like, we do, we don't. It's not that complicated. We have our emotions, hunger and thirst and
I don't think those are emotion. I think
sleepy.
those are physical needs.
They're,
Those are not emotions.
that's about as far as it goes. So we like, we don't like. So I mean, yeah, women are looking for I mean, of course, not every guy will go and get a date will love a girl and want to spend the rest of his life with her. But I mean, I mean, like if the girl says, "Oh, let's do something next weekend," and he goes, "I'm not sure."
What if he is really busy with work, though?
Oh, well, then if he's really busy with work, he'll then say, "Well, let's do something the following week."
So if a
For example,
guy's like, hey,
I'm busy for the next 3 months. If I'm busy for the next 3 months, well, that's pretty obvious then.
what if he's leaving the country? Let's go back to that one. What if he's moving to Ireland?
Well, then, he's moving to Ireland and maybe you'll end up having to do a long distance relationship if you're open to that. I mean, that's a different thing.
Right. I mean, what signs do men give? I think men are kind of more upfront than women. So I think that just when a guy says let's go, out to a guy, that means something, right?
Yeah, it's straightforward. I mean, the thing is, it's our level of communication is not as sophisticated as your level of communication. We don't have layers of meaning that are hidden and twisted and turned in all different directions. It's generally what we say is what we mean. Generally.
And when is it not the case then?
Oh, of course. I mean, you can't speak for all men, but I mean, most men are more straightforward. Most men are more straightforward. So if they say something, so if you want to find out if a guy is interested or not, you might suggest something like, "Let's do something next weekend," or and if he says, "I'm too busy," well, then you kind of know, okay, right, I'm not his top priority. And you say, well, when will we do something? And he says, "Well, I don't know."
Then you're
For
not a
example,
priority.
then you're not a priority. So, I mean, if he's keen, he'll go, "Yeah, I'm not available next weekend, but I am the weekend after," or whatever. It's very straightforward. Men are. This is the challenge I think that women have. Women, I think, of course, this is my blanket statement. I think women are trying to read between the lines when men are speaking and communicating, and they don't really realize there's not that much between the lines. So everything that we say we do, women are looking for what is the implication of what he's saying. What is he really saying? What does he really think? It's not that complicated. Just take the first level meaning, the very literal meaning, and I think the biggest challenge women have is they can't accept that men are fairly straightforward. It's not that complicated.
So, I mean, do you advise a woman to ask and say, "Hey, are you interested in me? Yes or no?" And check a block like second grade? Would that be beneficial? Do you like me? Yes or no?
Well, I mean, that gets into, I mean, you could ask, I mean, if a woman wants to ask after, I don't know, maybe not the first date, but after a few dates, is so are we a couple? Are we not a couple? Are we just having fun, or are we a couple? It might be one thing, for example.
But do you guys feel cornered when they get asked that, or is it better for the guy to initiate?
Well, it might be better. I generally it might be better to wait for that. But I mean, if you've seen the guy for 6 months and the conversation, that conversation hasn't come up, I mean, it's probably a sign that you're a what you say, a filler inner, an in betweeny. What was that term you had?
But that goes back into our conversation the other week of does it have to go anywhere? And in some cases, it's fine to be just where it is and have a good time, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the whole thing. Is not everybody's always looking for happy ever after, and a house in the hills and the dogs and the little white fence. Not everybody's always looking for that, and so people change. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Amy? What do you think? What do you think? What? Yeah, go on.
What I think about how men think?
How do you think about how men communicate? Men communicate, and what do they say and what they mean? And I would say men are straightforward. Do you
I
think men?
think men are generally more straightforward and often like I tell my girlfriends, and I've gone through this a few times with people, is like you have to be pretty blunt and tell a guy what you want. And so don't be like, I don't want anything for my birthday. And then you don't get anything. And then you're like, oh, I can't believe he didn't give me anything for my birthday. I'm like, well, you told him not to. He is like a gold star. He did exactly what he was told to do. Right.
Yeah.
Like, whereas if you kind of like tell a guy, like, hey, my birthday's coming up. This is kind of important to me. And then they go, oh, then they get like the hint. But you got to like, it's gotta
Yeah.
be like a big hint. You can't just go, "I don't want anything," because the guy goes, "Okay, great, I don't have to buy anything," and they like move
And
on,
then the partner gets offended when a present is not bought for them for the birthday, yeah.
right? I mean, that's the
Absolutely.
real thing.
Yeah, but I mean, a man is meant to understand that when she says that, she doesn't really mean it literally, because what she means, she doesn't want to put him under pressure. She wants to see how does he respond and this and that. Doesn't work. It doesn't
Well, I
work.
went out with a guy when I was younger, and I really discovered this too. Is the other way is this guy was like so used to like being told, I guess, from other women, like, oh, like you got to look for all this stuff. If I was like at a shop window and I like something, and I'd be like, oh, blah, 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 and then he'd get it for me. And so I started to say, like, oh, this is really cute, but I would never want it in my house because, because I would just see stuff and he would get it. And I was like, oh, I didn't mean like I wanted it. Like, I meant like, it's just cute, like not for me. So I would just end up with all this random stuff that he would like, oh, she said this was cute. I'll
Well,
get
there you
it.
go. There you go. It's just men are very simple. We're literal. If somebody says
I
do
know.
this, we will want to keep the person happy when we do this, and the
Yeah.
person says don't do this, and we want to keep them happy when we don't do this. We're not sort of second guessing, second thinking like, oh, what do they really mean? And if they really mean this and what, we don't have time, or we don't have mental capacity for this sort of stuff. Like we don't have we have more important things to be thinking about than did she mean this? Did she mean that? Like we much more important things to be thinking about.
I don't think it's necessarily more important. I think it's thinking
We
in a
have more
different
important things to be
way.
thinking, like the football statistics or the sports results or whatever. We don't have time. Does she mean this? Does she not mean that? It's like we don't know. So,
Wait, do you think Hollywood's ruined that for us?
in what way do you mean?
Well, they show these romantic comedies where all the guys are hanging out, talking about the woman's feelings, saying, do you think she wants to marry me? I don't think men sit around and really do that. I've asked men, and they're like, "No, we don't really do that. Like that's some Hollywood thing they try to sell women because it sells movie tickets." I mean, is that
Yeah,
true?
but I don't know. Never heard of anyone
You guys are
talking about
sitting around the sauna going, "Well, you've been dating Jill for a long time. Do you think she's ready for you to pop the question?
it.
Have you talked to your mom yet about getting the family engagement ring? Nobody talks like that."
Yeah, well, what's that? I mean, that didn't come in with Hollywood. That came in. Well, I mean, what was it? Pride and Prejudice was that? That's from 150 years ago. Mr. Darcy, and I mean that. Anyway, I mean, but
Yeah.
like this sort of stuff has been going on for hundreds of years at least in literature. Okay, obviously Hollywood wasn't there, but I mean, so Yes, yes, yes. I mean, I don't know. You have to sell books somehow, don't you? So you got to appeal to get to know your audience. So you can sell books, sell movies. I mean, yeah, sell the romantic dream, and then when we go, yeah, why can't my man be like that?
Surprise.
What?
So, Mel, looking at our audience, what do we have for next week?
We have a fantastic topic for next week. For next week, we're going to talk about investing. That's our topic,
Right.
isn't it?
So
How
the
much do you
question is
invest?
how much to invest and when? And are you one of those people who invest too early in the relationship?
Exactly. So we're looking forward to talking about that next week. It's great to have you all here this
Great.
week,
Thank
and
you, everyone.
look forward to see you all next week.